So here, welcome again. The MSCs in histories, and it's a plural because there are quite a few of them that we have, and we seem to be accumulating more programs every year. The ones that I'm in charge of as PGT convener, that's my role. PGT is postgraduate taught convener. The courses that I'm overseeing is history, then medieval history, a more specialized program. We have an MSc in early modern history. That's another one that I'm in charge of. We have an MSc in modern history and then one in Scottish history. So hence MSCs in history is plural. There are various programs that operate independently, but I am the one who's kind of overseeing them all. I am your primary contact person if you are a master's student here studying any of these programs. Then I'm your primary contact person. I tell you how to build your curriculum. I help you with any questions you have concerning your curriculum, any questions about dissertations, for example, figuring out which courses are running and which courses work for you and which don't. We also have other programs which are related to ours, but I'm not in charge of them, but they still make up the wider research community. We have an MSc. MSc, by the way, stands for Master of Science. So don't ask me why a history master is called a Master of Science, but evidently we're very scientific about everything we do. Other programs that are related but have different people in charge of them is the MSc in Gender History. And there are separate events running for those if you're interested in them. We have an MSc in Global History. We have one in War Studies, and we have one in Conflict Archaeology and Heritage. So these are obviously related programs. There's some form of overlap that you can attend as courses within these programs, but they have a slightly different structure. So the one that I'm talking about right now are the ones listed above: medieval history, Scottish history, modern history, and early modern history, sorry. Right, I hope that you have some idea about the University of Glasgow, because it's a very famous one. We are very old, established in 1451. We have consistently been ranked as among the top 100 universities in the world. We are very proud of our strength as a research-driven university. We have been named the Times Higher Educational University of the Year in 2020 and 2021. So obviously we're doing something right here. We are a member of the Russell Group of research-intensive UK universities, which are the universities that really put a strong emphasis on research-driven teaching. That means effectively that we tend to teach only things that we are really invested in. We do our research and we teach about our research. We are a big employer in the city, as you can imagine, having 9,000 staff and then a wider research and teaching community of another 3,400. More specifically, if you come to Glasgow and do a history master's degree, you will be under the tutelage of the College of Arts. And the College of Arts, again, is very good. It's very big. It's done really well in various rankings that we are recognized as providing excellent education and being very research driven, having ranked high in various rankings in the past. Within the College of Arts, you have a variety of research centers, and I'm going to talk about research centers that are more specific to history in a minute, but there are others as well, because obviously you have something like English Lit, you have other fields, art history and so on. They all have the research centers as well, and which you can attend and participate in and feed off to your liking. We do have world-leading collections within the university from which the College of Art arts benefits. And within the College of Arts, a very thriving postgraduate community with, believe it or not, a lot of PhD students, of which you will be one. But why study history at Glasgow? Well, there are 4 good reasons I think that sell us. So one is really the range of courses that we offer. Another one is the staff, and I'm proud to call myself a part of that cohort, the academic staff that will teach you. The third one is the culture of research and learning that you will be a part of. And the fourth one is the resources that we have available at the University of Glasgow, specifically in Glasgow, more broadly speaking. I'm going to talk about these 4 topics one by one. When I talk a range of courses, I talk about, gosh, at any given year, we probably have between 20 and 30 different courses available to you, reaching from the medieval stuff. I'm, by the way, I'm a lecturer in medieval history, and my speciality is the history of the Eastern Mediterranean. So the Crusades is a big topic that I'm teaching. You can see there's a course here offered, Crusading Warfare. If you are daring enough to study crusading warfare, then you will end up with me, and I would be mighty pleased to welcome you at my seminar table in my rather spacious office. There are courses on medieval paleography if you want to learn how to read medieval manuscripts, how to transcribe them, how to make use of them, which obviously you need to be able to know if you want to take medieval history any further than a master's. Then you can do that. There are courses on all sorts of topics. You have commodity history in the Global South, for example, as my colleague Jelme Vos, who looks at commodities like coffee that generate in the Global South and find markets here in the Global North, and he looks at supply chains. He looks at the implications of getting stuff across continents and the globe. He looks at the social, the economic aspects of, and the entire history. We have gender-driven courses like Gender, Politics, and Power, which is a core course for one of the other programs we have, the MSc in Gender History, but obviously it's a course that stands on its own feet, and you can take part in that as well. We have courses that are clearly anchored within the locality or Scotland more closely, like Life and Afterlife of Mary, Queen of Scots, that looks at that particular Queen Mary, her life, her very kind of cinematic and dramatic life, but also how she's commemorated in culture even today. So that's the afterlife. And then you have courses on intelligence history, on US history, all sorts of things. So you can see that's a range that offers something for everybody. And that's really, we are one of the largest history departments in the UK, and that's reflected in the kind of courses we are able to offer. We are able to offer them many courses because we have we are many. As I said, we are a large subject. We have about 30 staff teaching anything from, as I said, medieval history up to the very present. We do our own research, and we tend to only teach what we research. All our teaching is research driven. And that translates into the formation of a number of centers and research seminars where you have really a critical mass of people being interested in larger themes, communicating between each other and furthering their kind of shared interests. And we have a center for war studies, for example. We have a world-leading center for gender history here. We have now a big center for slavery studies. Then you have Celtic and Scottish studies. They have their own research seminar, and then you have other research seminars tied to early modern history and medieval history, for example. So what you will be experiencing here, if you study history at PhD level, it's a very vibrant research community where people go to talks, go to lectures, invite each other, and you are expected to participate in this. And it's a great opportunity for you to meet staff and get like your ear on the ground when it comes to picking up trends in research, to really being at the forefront of research agendas. So being part of one of these centers, associated with these centers, it's a great thing. We have individual projects that are running. A lot of our staff have large grant projects in which they're engaged, which means they're getting external money to build something big that lasts for many, many years. And these are like very research intensive projects. So you have one member of staff with a crew working on something very specific for a long period of time, and that kind of they go in deep and they produce new knowledge. That's why they get a lot of money. And you know, something like the life and afterlife of Mary Queen of Scots, as I already mentioned, as a course that's tied to a big project that's currently running, and my colleague Stephen Reed is in charge of that. That looks at exactly that, the memorialization and the cultural afterlife of Mary Queen of Scots. So again, here you can see that he's teaching on something that he's immersed in terms of research. He's finding new stuff. He's accessing new sources, and he's making that available in his teaching. So you're kind of part of the process. You can see then the project grow. We have other projects that are working, colleagues are working on right now. One I just mentioned here is housing everyday life and well-being in Glasgow. From 1950, 1975, so a more modern, more local project, which requires then the researcher to conduct oral interviews with people, to go into local archives, a different kind of research really than from the one that I would be doing as a medieval historian. But you can see you get really, really deep and you just unearth new knowledge. So these are kind of the centers and projects. This is what we are doing, what your teachers will be immersed in, and you as students taking our courses and being tied into the programs that you choose, you will be part of that culture. The other point that I mentioned is resources. We are very, very fortunate in Glasgow in that we have at our doorstep integrated into the university, the Hunterian Museum and Collection, which is world leading. It's one of the best collections in the world, university collections. It was founded in 1807. It's one of the oldest public museums and home of one of the largest collections outside the national museums. It's not only art collection, it's historical collection as well. It's books, manuscripts, it's artifacts. If you are into arts, you will find, obviously Charles Rennie Mackintosh well represented. You see even Whistler well represented. But if it's artifacts in particular, then we have more than 1.5 million of them. The university has dedicated an entirely new building to housing these artifacts, but also with teaching rooms where you as students can get access to them. You have someone show you, allow you access to them, work with them. A lot of my colleagues, they're integrating that into the teaching, that you will be working with artifacts where appropriate, you will get your hands-on experience. Other resources that we have and proud of, so Hunterian, I mentioned, is obviously the library. We have a very large library. You get all the books you want. We have a very good archives and special collections section within the library. This is important if you want to work with original old books, if you want to look at rare books, if you want to look at medieval manuscripts, if you want to work with coins and artifacts. So having the Hunterian here, having archives and special collections means that we as teachers are able to take you to these places and have you work with the objects themselves rather than just only talking about them. Beyond the library, there's a number of famous museums. Glasgow Live is kind of the umbrella organizations under which you have, again, world-leading institutions like the Barrel Collections, which is now opening up again. One of the a beautiful museum with a lot. I mean, I'm excited about it because it's full of medieval stuff. Arms and armor and crusader swords is all there. You have more specialized institutions like Glasgow Women's Library, and if you're kind of more into gender-related courses, if you want to look into women's lives, in particular in Scotland, this is a very specialized library, but very, very good. You have other specialized libraries like the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons Library. If you are keen on medical history, for example, this is a treasure trove. The manuscripts they have, the old books they have. So it's the mix between kind of the university resources and broader Glasgow that allows us as teachers to bring in a lot of different material, and that allows you as students to really explore different avenues. That's important when you think about dissertations, for example. What you want to do, you want to center that around a primary source, be it a text, be it an object, having access to these various depositories is really what allows you to shine. Now, what about the degree itself? How does it work? Very quickly, the academic year for PGTs, which is what you will be, runs from September to September. So you start, like everybody else at University of Glasgow, with it's usually kind of first or second week of September. But then it goes until exactly 1 year later when you have to submit the dissertation. The structure is that you need to accumulate 180 credits, usually, to gain your degree. Credits are kind of points that you get for attending certain courses or producing certain works. Usually, so you have 2 semesters. Semester 1, which runs from September to roughly Christmas. There you take 3 taught courses, and they're all kind of, the weight is 20 credits each. So you end up with 60 credits in the first semester. Then the second semester, which starts in the new year and then runs until pretty much now, where we are. We have another week to go. That's semester 2, where you take another 3 taught courses, so you end up with another 60 credits. And then from April, so after the teaching stops, then you have from April until September to write a dissertation. And that's a big chunk of work, of writing, and it's worth 60 credits. And if you add it all up, then you end up with 180, and that's you done. So that's roughly kind of how it works, 3 courses each semester. A dissertation, so there's no teaching between April and September. That's just you working on an independent and your own piece of research. The dissertation is you doing your own thing, but supervised by a member of staff. Sometimes it's 2 members of staff, depending on the project, but it's usually 1. So you do that as you would then later with a PhD, for example, under supervision of a staff, but it's your work. You're expected to do the work for this. Now, when it comes to the courses you take, there's a differentiation between core courses and optional courses. Core courses are those that everybody has to take. Anybody who signs up for a particular program, every program has a core course, so everyone has to take that. For history, and actually for all the programs that I've mentioned earlier that I am in charge of, medieval history, early modern history, Scottish history, and history as a big course. The one core course that we have is Doing History. It's called Doing History, it runs in the first semester. And it's designed to introduce everybody to what it means to be a historian. it means more than just writing essays. You have to think about what it is you want to do with this degree, which if you want to go into teaching, for example, then well, part of this, we're going to introduce you to the school system and what you want to think about. How do you design a school lesson? If you want to go into a PhD, which quite a few always do, we introduce you to what that means, which means we talk about PhD proposals, how to write them. We talk about the application process if you need funding, filling out these forms, which the longer you go down that road, the more forms you will need to fill out in your life. So it's really kind of practical. If you want to go into the heritage sector and you want to work in a museum, for example, we're going to talk about that. How do you build an exhibition? How do you talk about objects, which is different from just writing an essay about something? So it's kind of more practical oriented. What does it mean to be an historian? Which means we have quite a few guest speakers coming in from Glasgow museums, from career services, and so on, who just talk to you about your options and how to pursue certain avenues you might be interested in. So that's the one core course that all of you will be doing in semester 1. And then you have to pick 2 optional courses to make up for the remaining credits. Other programs have additional core courses. If you do, for example, opt for the program, the MSc in Medieval History, then the second core course you will be asked to take is the World of the Crusades, which is a team-taught course about not just the Crusades as we know them, but really the world in which they happen. And that actually surprisingly goes back to before the First Crusade, the whole setup when people in the medieval West started talking about holy war. And surprisingly, it didn't stop with the end of the Crusades in the Middle East, but it goes all the way to the 16th century, when we have colleagues looking at the Spanish conquest of Latin America and what their expectations were and how they were talking about these new encounters. So these are the core courses, and every program have their own, but the one that all of them have in common that I'm in charge of is that doing history that's the common one. And then you fill in the gaps with optional courses. This is where you pick and choose, right? So you go through the list and you say, I want to do one on history of inequalities, I want to do something on Scottish radicalism, or maybe on slavery and forced migration, or on crusading warfare, whatever it is. And here you do that in communication with me, because courses do oversubscribe. We are very proud of the fact that we're trying to keep courses small, so we have an intense experience. We can all get to know each other very well. So sometimes the first choices are, subscribe, and you will be asked to maybe go for a second choice, but there's plenty of choices out there. That's the key message to take away from here. And you can then fill that in even more by maybe looking outside history. If you want to practice a language, which makes total sense. If you're doing the French Revolution and you say, well, I also want to kind of maybe improve my French, taking a French course as for credit. If you want to talk about the Middle Ages and you say, I also want to understand maybe ecclesiastical art better, I want to talk about liturgy, maybe take a course in art history, right? Maybe take one in archaeology, in sociology, in English lit. You can do that. So outside courses, you can apply for outside courses. You can usually take 1 or 2. It shouldn't be all outside courses, but you can use them to supplement your own teaching and learning curriculum. So here we have already a big bundle of options you have, where you can pick and choose the ones that you like. You can build your curriculum to your strengths and to your interests. And that then kind of occupies you for 2 semesters. That's what you do. And then you have the big dissertation coming up. I mentioned it already, which is then the period between April and September, where after Christmas, roughly speaking, is when you need to start thinking about topics you want to explore further, and when we will ask you to get in touch with staff members to see who would be willing to supervise something you're interested in, so you kind of end up with a project that's doable and is interesting. And come April is when we expect you to just focus on that and get that done by September. And that's a very rewarding experience. You will walk away from this having written a dissertation as thinking you are ready. You can really, if you write a dissertation in a master's dissertation, then and you enjoy the process and you find it, doable, enjoyable, then you have discovered something very important for yourself. If you're thinking about a PhD, it's kind of a good step in that direction. Now, how will you be taught? As I said, we're really trying to keep class sizes small. Anything between 8 and 15 is normal. 15 is actually on the larger end. I think usually it's kind of 12, anything to 8 and 12. For the optional courses, the core courses are larger because everyone has to take them. But here we aim for a small group teaching within the larger cohort. All our teaching is research-led. And I said that before, that we only put courses on that we have some investment in. We want to enjoy that process too. We want to be, and I want to enjoy talking about, to you once a week for 2 hours. So it better be something that I'm interested in too, and that's what we do. So you're part of the process where research is happening, is being communicated, and you're often at the receiving end of our own kind of thoughts and discoveries. It's necessarily heavy on primary sources and historiography. So it's for the same reason, usually not centered on lectures or seminars. We really want to dig into the primary material. We want to hear what you think about it, how we respond to it. You want to grapple with the big questions, the historiographical debates that we need to understand and maybe take issue with. So it's kind of intellectually, this is where we want you to be. You have to start thinking about the arguments, the driving articles. You have to be able to talk about your reading of primary sources, your understanding of primary sources. You have, so a mix, seminars, lectures, workshops, but it's mostly seminars we're talking about. Team taught is sometimes some courses where you have you draw on the expertise of a number of colleagues coming together, and this they teach their strengths. Most of them are single taught, but we have team taught courses as well. Doing history is the core course that I already mentioned. Here I will be the MC. I will be guiding through the course and doing a lot of the teaching, but there I also make sure we have plenty of guest speakers, and you can expect guest speakers in other courses as well. The dissertation is, as I said, is a piece of original research that you will be in charge of. And then you have, that's kind of scaffolded by supervisions, where a staff member will be allocated to you to guide you through the dissertation, to be kind of the sounding board to your ideas. And that's kind of, we're talking here about one-on-one supervisions that structure that process. Now, I'm almost at the end. I just want to mention the other programs that we still have, which are in essence very similar to what I described, how they work. They do have a different set of core courses as well. So you kind of want to maybe attend their little webinars as well to find out more about them. Is the MSc in Gender History, is the MSc in Global History, and then we have one in War Studies and in Conflict Archaeology and Heritage. And if you want to find out more about those, I'm not in charge of these programs, but I know obviously everybody who is. So feel free to drop me an email if you can't find the information online, and I'm very happy to just direct you to the person who will be able to answer the questions that you have. I, for one, I'm finished with my quick overview. Here are my details. Jochen Schenk is my name, and this is my email address. So if you have any questions that come up later, right? You don't manage to ask them now, and any follow-ups, feel free to email me. I'm happy to hear from everybody. If you have need any further guidance, I'll do my damn best to make sure you get all the information you need. That's me for now, and I am happy to hear and answer any questions that you have.